this is Chris Arnold, Avon Independent Sales Leader. And today I wanted to take a look at some of the options for getting your brochures in customers' hands. But one common question that comes up is, how many brochures do I give to someone who hasn't placed an order? So I figure we'll take a look at that first. When the topic comes up on representative groups on Facebook or at Avon meetings or something like that, you'll get answers everywhere from representatives who cut them off if they haven't ordered by the third brochure to those who say never stop giving them brochures. I think the sweet spot is actually somewhere in between those two extremes. First, you have to remember the brochure is your store. If the customer or prospect does not have a brochure, they can't come in your store. So we have the online brochure, and that's a great tool, but even my customers who shop online like to have the physical brochure in hand. And they like to be able to flip through it, maybe while they're drinking their coffee in the morning, while they're winding down at the end of the day, or just to have, they throw it in their purse and take it with them and maybe browse through it while they're waiting in line or waiting at the doctor's office, something like that. But brochures are an expense, often our biggest expense as representatives. And so you do have to establish some limit as to how many brochures someone can get without actually making a purchase. There's no hard and fast rule for how many books someone should get, but there's a few things to keep in mind. Few people will place an order the very first time they get a brochure. That's why it's so important to get that contact information so that you can make sure they get future brochures. In general, people will see a marketing message 4 to 8 times before they take action on it. And, I've had people that have gone as long as 6 months to a year before placing their first year. They just weren't ready to order. They didn't need anything, or, for whatever reason, weren't ready to order. And the reality is that representatives come and go. So customers do need to see that you're reliable and that you're going to stick around before they, decide that you're going to be their new Avon lady. So it certainly wouldn't stop after only a few brochures. However, giving a brochure every campaign until the end of time isn't particularly cost-effective either. So my personal guideline is to treat the brochure like a magazine subscription. Anyone can get a 6-month subscription, but to continue that subscription, they have to place an order once every 6 months. I also have people that get the brochure only every 3rd campaign for a year, or some that only get every 6th campaign for 2 years. So they're still getting the same number of books, they're just spread out over a longer time. These are typically customers who don't order as often, or they just don't need every brochure for whatever reason. Once someone's subscription expires, I send them a postcard letting them know and sharing other ways that they can stay in touch, including viewing the brochure on my online store or following me on Facebook. So this is the postcard that I send. This is the front and the back where the address goes. So it says, I hope this finds you well. Your Avon brochure subscription is expiring. To keep the brochures coming, simply place an order once every 6 months. You may also view the brochure online anytime at my website, and I put my website address. Please feel free to contact me anytime I may be of service, and I include my phone number and email address there. Then on the back, I have other ways that you can stay in touch. Follow me on Facebook, sign up for my email newsletter, visit my blog, or become a representative because, maybe they're not ordering because they don't have the money. So make sure I've got all the bases covered on that little postcard that they can hold on to. And even after someone has gotten this postcard and they're not on my regular mailing list anymore, they go on a list of people who used to get the brochure, and they'll get 1 or 2 books a year. Like I kind of cycle through that list and send them 1 or 2 books a year just in case they're ready to start ordering again, because people's circumstances change, and maybe whatever it was that was keeping them from ordering for a while there is no longer the case, and they're able to start ordering again. So aside from the customer's order history as a way of deciding how many books to give them, there's another surefire way to determine how often a customer needs a brochure. Ask them. Maybe they know they're only going to order once a month or every couple of months. Or maybe they only order one favorite product, so you can just let them know when that product's on sale. And then, of course, you'll stick a brochure in their order so they can see if there's anything new they might be interested in. And you'll have customers who are more than happy to view the brochure online or just browse through the online store. So remember, it's not a matter of, every person that you get in touch with, they have to have the brochure every campaign. You can spread those brochures out over time, but ask them what what their preference is. Maybe I've had customers that have come to me and said, I really don't need a brochure every campaign, or I really don't need the brochure at all. I will go online and look. Your relationship with your customers and your prospects is a relationship, and those require communication. So communicate with them. All right. So one of the most important steps you're going to take each campaign is getting your brochures to your customers and prospects. After all, like we said, your brochure is your store. The most obvious way to distribute your brochures, and the method you're probably using, that's what most representatives do, is that you take them to the customers and the prospects personally. So a few tips for doing that in the most efficient way. Make a tracking sheet with all of your customers and prospects so that you can check off when each customer receives their brochures, so you can easily see who still needs one. You can on the blog post for this video, I'll put an example that you can see there. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually just Google, Avon customer follow-up log, and you'll get a couple of different varieties of those. Several of them based on the old booklet that they used to have back in the day when representatives had territories. And so they would have this booklet where they had listed all of the houses in their territory and the customer's name and phone number, and each campaign they can check off if they gave them a book and if they placed an order. So it's also sometimes called a customer tracking log, is another name for it there. So once you've got everybody on your list and you've got a column for each campaign, just so you can check them off, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but one thing that'll really help is arrange the people on your book list into a route so that you can drop the books off more effectively if you're having to actually make a special trip to drop off the brochures. Which brings me to my second trick. Work your book drop-offs into your regular routine. So give them a book when you see them, or drop off all of the books in a neighborhood while you're making deliveries in that area or have other errands in that area. Use the clear literature bags to hang the brochure in a convenient location, either on a fence or a doorknob, or wherever is convenient when you're dropping off the book when a customer's not home. Whenever possible, ask them where the best place to leave the book is. There's no point in leaving a book by the front door if they always enter their house through their garage. And keep in mind, it is a federal offense to put anything in the mailbox unless you are the mail carrier, even if the representative gives you permission. If the postal carrier finds your brochure in that mailbox and you didn't pay postage and have them deliver it, you can get fined. At the very least, they can make you pay the postage on that item. And having the customer say, having the person whose mailbox it is say it's okay, it still doesn't help. So unless you're the mail carrier and you're delivering mail on your route, don't put things in people's mailboxes. And for those customers that are kind of out of your way and you don't see them as often, consider giving them 2 brochures at a time. Just be sure they know the order dates for both books, and that they know how they can take advantage of back ordering. So say they want to combine those 2 orders into one order, they know how they can take advantage of that. Now, as your business grows, you may start to find it's more difficult to get all of the brochures out each campaign. Mailing brochures is a good option for getting the brochures out when you just can't make the rounds yourself. And while mailing brochures is an expense, you have to take into account that you'll be saving gas and wear and tear on your car, and more importantly, that you're going to save time. That's time that you could be spending on activities that are going to create more income in your business, or time that you can spend with your family or doing things that you enjoy. So remember, it's not always about the actual monetary cost of something. There is also that cost in time and effort and what else you could be doing with that time. Because there's so many more activities that you could be doing that are going to generate income in your business, more so than sitting in your car driving from house to house to house dropping off brochures, or walking the neighborhood. Although walking the neighborhood is not bad exercise. So there's a plus to that as well. And so, definitely consider the benefits when you're looking at the cost. So there's 3 ways basically that you can go about mailing your brochures. The first is regular first class mail through the post office. This is the most expensive option, but it's the best choice if you're only mailing a few brochures. And this is usually what I do, because I do bulk mail, which is going to be option number 3 that I'll tell you about. And so if I have somebody new request a book, and maybe I've just done my mailing, just distributed my books, a few days before, I may do one book through the regular mail, stick it in an envelope and mail it to them. So that's the best option if you're only mailing a few brochures. The cost is going to vary based on the weight of the brochure, and that's going to be true just about any way that you send it through the post office. But you're looking at a couple dollars in postage for each brochure. I have seen some representatives suggest sending brochures using media mail because they're printed materials, but the post office does not allow marketing materials, which of course is what our brochures are, to be sent via media mail. So even if you take it to the post office and they initially accept it as media mail, that's another drawback to media mail, is you have to actually mail it at the post office, but since you can't mail our books that way anyway. But even if you were to go to the post office and get them to accept it at the media mail rate, they are allowed to open any mail that is sent via media mail. It's one of the stipulations of media mail, is that the post office has the right to open up that mail. And if they determine that it's not eligible, they'll charge the additional postage, and your customer may be the one getting the bill, because they may give that, it may show up at their house postage due. So definitely don't try to do media mail to save money, because it could end up costing you more in the long run. The second option for mailing brochures is a service called Campaign Mailer, and it's at campaign-mailer.com, or just Google Campaign Mailer, it comes up. And it's a service, it's offered by, there's an Avon representative who also has a bulk mail permit, and so she offers this service to other representatives. They provide the brochures, prepare the mailing, and mail the brochures at bulk rates. So the service costs from 99 cents to $1.39 for each brochure if you're just doing the base brochure. They do have options for adding in outlets, or sending living brochures, or adding in the little mini recruiting booklets. So they have options beyond just the basic brochure. But the rates for the basic brochure is from 99 cents to $1.39 for each brochure. And it varies depending on how many you're mailing. That includes the cost of the brochure, so you don't need to order as many brochures. So you're going to save a little bit of money there on your representative order with not having to order as many brochures. So that's going to offset some of the cost of using Campaign Mailer. The third option is bulk mail through the Postal Service. It's actually called marketing mail now, and it's basically an option where you do some of the work for the post office. So you sort the mail a certain way, and you have to, they're very particular about, you have to give them the mail already prepared in a certain way, and in exchange for that you get greatly reduced rates for mailing your brochures. So the bulk mail rates are significantly lower than first class, and they vary based on the weight of the brochures. And it also varies based on things like how many you have going to a particular post office, or how many you have going to a particular zip code or group of zip codes. In addition to having a bulk mail permit, which there is an initial startup fee and an annual fee for the bulk mail permit, so you'll have to factor that into your cost benefit figures there. But in addition to having the bulk mail permit, you need to be mailing a minimum of 200 identical pieces to qualify for bulk rates. There is a minimum weight way to qualify. I believe it's 15 pounds, that if you have at least 15 pounds in your mailing, that you can mail at the bulk rate and not have to have 200 pieces. But with the varying weights of our brochures, it's harder to know how many brochures you need to have to hit that 15-pound minimum. And they do have to be identical pieces, whether you're going by piece count or weight for the qualification. Your best resource for information on bulk mail is the Postal Service, because of course this is definitely much bigger than something I can cover in a short training video. But definitely, the Postal Service website has a lot of great resources related to bulk mail or marketing mail. Or standard mail is also another way you'll see it referred to. And there's also a really great, the website that I use for the software that I use that sorts my mail for me and does the barcodes on it so I get even lower rates, it's savepostage.com, and they have in their menu there a bulk mail 101. So it's a really nice, concise beginner's guide to bulk mail. So that may be a good starting place for you. And then of course that postage saver software that you get at savepostage.com is what I recommend for preparing your mail and putting, to put your mail pieces in the right order and grouped the right way to qualify for your bulk rates. I started bulk mailing my brochures about 17 or 18 years ago, because of course I've been doing this 21 years now. And I had a significant sales increase when I did that. In fact, my sales increase that year was big enough that I was the #1 in sales increase in my district that year. And I attributed it all to the bulk mailing, because, I had been doing it a few years and had kind of, hadn't had that big of an increase before. But once I started bulk mailing, my sales really went up. And it was because my customers were getting the brochure more consistently. So the cost was well worth it, especially since it meant that I was no longer spending entire days driving around dropping off brochures with my 2 small daughters in tow. If you don't already have 200 customers to get to that minimum for the mailing, you can fill out your list by look at where your customers are and add other addresses in their neighborhood to your list and mail to. And maybe you'll pick up some more customers in that neighborhood, which actually makes your deliveries more efficient because you can deliver to multiple customers on the same trip. Another option is getting together with a couple or a few other local representatives and combining your books together to hit the 200 piece minimum for bulk mail. So that's my tips for getting brochures out, and how long, how many brochures you want to give somebody before you give up on them. So hope that helps you out. And if you have any more questions, just reach out, let me know, or hop on the Postal Service website for questions regarding mailing brochures, either first class or bulk mail, or check out the campaign mailer website for information there. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I will see you all again soon.